Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, May 20th. In our devotion for today, I'd like to continue with our theme of examining our mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's important that we begin to or continue to dialogue and talk about our mental health. Our mental health is so important, and there's for the longest time been a stigma in our country that people who have mental health issues should be secreted away. It's a topic we shouldn't talk about in public, but it's a topic that we all struggle with. COVID-19 in the last 8 weeks has shown us how important and how crucial our mental health is and how fragile it is when certain things are taken away and we can't rely upon some of the helps that we normally help are used to help us. So on Monday, we talked about how there's nowhere where we can go where we can escape from God, even in our darkest, deepest, most horrific moments, even when we struggle, even when we make bad decisions, even when we have thoughts that are not healthy. There's nowhere we can go where we can escape God. And yesterday we began looking at the life of Elijah and how Elijah, this great hero of the Bible, struggled with mental illness. And one of the most important things we pulled out of yesterday's lesson was that community matters. Often, what happens is that when one person is struggling with their mental health, God brings them to another person who, in community, they can help each other. And that's what God did with Elijah and a widow who had given up and was ready to die. And together they were able to go on a journey and help each other for 3 years. They walked together and they needed each other. And in community, God was able to help them and bring all the different things, provide for them what they needed. But community is important, community matters. Today, we're going to look at another moment in the life of Elijah. And this is a moment when Elijah is getting ready for one of his great victories. 3 years have gone by. There hasn't been rain for 3 years because of the sin of the people, specifically the sin of King Ahab and the leadership and those who are in power and the ways that they have acted. But let's read from 1 Kings chapter 18. Later on in the third year of the drought, the Lord said to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to King Ahab. Tell him that I will soon send rain." So Elijah went to appear before Ahab. Meanwhile, the famine had become so severe in Samaria, so Ahab summoned Obadiah, who was in charge of the palace. Obadiah was a devoted follower of the Lord. Once, when Jezebel, the wife of King Ahab, had tried to kill all of the Lord's prophets, Obadiah had hidden 100 of them in two different caves. He put 50 prophets in each cave and supplied them with food and water so that they could survive. Ahab said to Obadiah, "We must check every spring and valley in the land to see if we can find enough grass to save at least some of my horses and mules." So they divided the land between them. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went the other way by himself. As Obadiah was walking along, he suddenly saw Elijah coming toward him. Obadiah recognized him at once and bowed low to the ground before him. "Is it really you, my lord Elijah?" he asked. "Yes, it is," Elijah replied. "Now go and tell your master Elijah is here." "Oh, sir," Obadiah protested, "what harm have I done to you that you are sending me to my death at the hands of Ahab? For I swear by the Lord your God that the king has searched every nation and kingdom on earth from end to end looking to find you. And each time he was told, 'Elijah isn't here.' King Ahab would force each king of that nation to swear to the truth of his claim. And now you say, 'Go and tell your master Elijah is here.' But as soon as I leave you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you away to who knows where. When Ahab comes and cannot find you, he will kill me. Yet I have been a true servant of the Lord all my life. Has no one told you, my lord, about the time when Jezebel was trying to kill the Lord's prophets? I hid 100 of them in two caves and supplied them with food and water. And now you say, 'Go and tell your master Elijah is here.' Sir, if I do that, Ahab will certainly kill me." But Elijah said, "I swear by the Lord Almighty, in whose presence I stand, that I will present myself to Ahab this very day." So Obadiah went to tell Ahab that Elijah had come, and Ahab went out to meet Elijah. And when Ahab saw him, he exclaimed, "So it's really you, you troublemaker of Israel." "I have made no trouble for Israel," Elijah replied. "You and your family are the troublemakers, for you have refused to obey the commands of the Lord and have worshipped the images of Baal instead. Now summon all of Israel to join me at Mount Carmel, along with the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who are supported by Jezebel. The word of the Lord. This is the first part of the story. The second part is what's going to happen when everybody gathers on Mount Carmel, and we'll look at that story tomorrow. But today I want to look at just the person of Obadiah, this faithful, trustful servant. Elijah has been in hiding for 3 years. There's been a famine. People are suffering. We know what kind of king Ahab is. He's a self-centered narcissist who doesn't think about other people. He's more concerned with his horses and his donkeys than he is with being king or providing for the people. That's evident in this passage. Obadiah is a person who serves and is in charge of the palace. He's someone of privilege and influence. He has authority, and he serves at the behest of the king. But when his wife, the queen Jezebel, wants to kill all those prophets, Obadiah does the right thing. He is willing to risk his own life in order to do the right thing, to provide for those people who are vulnerable, for those people who are unable to care for themselves because of the circumstances of this world. This is an important picture as we look at the kinds of struggles that we have with mental illness. Those of us, all of us, have some kind of power. We all have privilege. We all have authority. We all have different ways that God has blessed us. We have different things that happen in our lives. None of us are without anything. And so we all have some ways that we can help others who have less than we do, who are struggling in some way, especially those whose lives are in danger. There are 100 people that want to be killed, and Obadiah is willing to step in and to do the right thing. After he does this, though, the weight of what he does it's weighing down on him. The nervousness, the sense of getting caught. Obadiah, is this great hero that has saved 100 people, 100 prophets because of his courage. Yet when he meets Elijah, his nerves are they've been shredded, and Elijah asks him to do a simple thing, and all of a sudden Obadiah explodes. He goes on a rant about, how could you do this to me, Elijah? You're just going to spirit yourself away, and you're just going to go someplace else, leave me hanging here, and I'm going to get killed. Now, the truth of the reality is that Obadiah could have been killed if he had been found out at any moment. He's been risking his life, and he's been doing the right thing, but it takes a toll on him. And his nerves are shattered, they're shredded. And when Elijah gives him a simple request, he explodes. Now, this doesn't change who Obadiah is. He's a great person of God. He is a great person of courage. But the reality is that when we are on our own, oftentimes doing the right thing can drain us physically. It can drain us emotionally, and it can drain us spiritually. I know my own personal situation the last 8 weeks has been very emotionally and physically draining on me. I've been stuck at home, so I can't do all the things that I normally do. But I've noticed that I've become a lot more impatient with my children and my wife. My nerves are stretched thin, and maybe you can relate. And it's not because of the fact that I'm a horrible person. It's the circumstances of my life are weighing down upon me. And it's the same thing that happened with Obadiah. Obadiah didn't lose courage. It was just the reality of what he was going through. And I think we have to be honest and real about what is happening around us, and understanding of how that affects us, and the ways that we receive other people, and the ways that we communicate, the ways we interpret what other people say to us. It's easy to allow our nerves, our tiredness, our impatience, our frustrations to get the better of us. And we all know that when that all happens. This is part of our mental health. We have to be aware of those things and doing the things that we can to find community, to find people, to talk to people, to process our emotions, to do the things that we need to get rest. We have to be aware of all of those things. So when Obadiah comes to Elijah, he goes and complains and has a rant. Elijah doesn't turn to him and say, "Oh, you person of little faith." Or he doesn't condemn Obadiah for yelling at him, and he has patience. He gives space or grace to Obadiah because he can at least guess at some of the struggles and the pressure that Obadiah has felt actually living and working the palace with someone like King Ahab. That's, I think, some of the things that we need to do right now. We need to give people grace. We need to understand that sometimes people are under a lot of pressure, and they could be weighed down. And when they snap or yell or go on a rant or are impatient or frustrated with us, sometimes it has nothing to do with us. And we have to give them the grace and the forgiveness and the space to process their emotions in whatever ways they can. Sometimes it's healthy ways, sometimes it's unhealthy ways. But we forgive. And it doesn't mean we have to be abused by them, but we do allow them to have a space or a time filled with grace where we're not going to hold things against them. We allow them to say the things they need to say to process their emotions, and then we provide the help and the guidance and the support and the encouragement that person might need. That's what Elijah did to Obadiah, who was under a lot of stress, and it was showing. Let us take heart that we are not alone, that community matters, and that in community we are providing grace and patience and forgiveness for one another. Amen. Amen. It is Wednesday, so that means tonight is our prayer meeting at 7 o'clock. Don't forget, send me your prayer requests through our app or email them to me at pastor@alpinelutheran.com. I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock. In the meantime, take care and look in on those who are most vulnerable.